listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. Today, we have another show lineup for you out. Today, we have a special guest who's going to tell us a little bit about her book. Her name is June Kraholik Collins, and she has an amazing website where you can go get this book. And that website is theserenitydreamer.com, and you can go to her products page where she has her book listed where you can purchase it directly from her website. The title of the book, by the way, is Momma, You Don't Heal. It's a story that is a real life story, and we're going to learn a little bit about her and what inspired her to start writing about this project and releasing it, publishing it for the world to read. So first and foremost, June, thank you for your time. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I am doing great.
So kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself. I know you are an author, but you're also a master NLP practitioner and you're a coach as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm from Hayhira, Georgia, a little town in Hayhira, Georgia. And yeah, so I am a coach and an author. I coach women who have lost children through a variety of different ways. And that's pretty much, and I write, obviously. And yeah, that's basically what I do.
So back in 2012, something happened in your life and very life-changing. How do you want to explore this with the audience? Tell us a little bit about what happened during that time.
Sure. So in 2012, it was just a normal day with my husband and my son, who was almost 2.5. He was 2 and 3 months. He was a special needs child, and he had gone to his doctor's appointments that day. And long story short, we got home that night and we had to do what we called shift work, because he woke up several times in the middle of the night. So we had to actually take shifts because we needed sleep. One of us needed sleep. So we took shifts, and that night my husband at the time was on shift, and I woke up to him screaming. And when I ran down the stairs, I asked him what was going on, and he said that my son, Kaleb, wasn't breathing. And I ended up running all the way down the stairs, and when I ran into his room, I called 911 first, and I threw down the phone because where we're at, whenever you dial 911 and no one answers, the police still come. So I threw down the phone and I ran into his room, and he was on the bed. He wasn't breathing. So I put him on the floor and I started CPR on him, and I did CPR on Kaleb until the paramedics came. And obviously they took him to the hospital. And when we made it to the hospital, my husband and we were told that a chaplain and a doctor came into that room, and they told us that my son had passed away, that they had done everything they could, but he passed away that night. So that kind of started my journey with helping women who have lost children. And it started the idea to write the book, and just all my experiences that I went through and are still going through with child loss. Because I believe that you don't heal. I believe that you learn how to deal with it. So yeah, that's kind of where my story started. And I started just like anybody else at the bottom, and I spiraled down as far as you can go without committing suicide. And then I just made my way. I decided one day I wasn't going to live like that anymore. And I decided that I was going to figure out this thing. And that's where the neuro-linguistic programming came in, and the study of the mind. I started studying the mind and just how it reacts to different situations and different things. And yeah, that's kind of how I got my start. That's a very, very slim version of my start, because obviously there's a lot that goes on when you lose your child.
And for the audience, cover your book. You have a vivid picture, like clouds in the sky, like, like it's heaven. When it comes to dealing with this as you were writing, I mean, what's the right questions to ask when someone goes through such a traumatic experience such as this?
Going through it, and, obviously it's out of the life cycle. Nobody likes talking about children dying because we don't want to think that children would die. We think that, you're born and you die when you're old and gray and live this great life. And I think that a lot of people don't know what questions to ask, but sometimes in the women that I talk to and in my experience, it's not even asking the questions. It's not even knowing what to say. It's just being there with someone that's lost a child. And I've found that it's not even what you say. Sometimes it's just sitting down or just saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about you." That's usually all we need, I guess you could say.
I'm glad you said that, because when you wrote this book, you're writing it to help women understand that this struggle of dealing with this is something that is a very difficult path,
Yeah,
But
I mean, it is a difficult path. And I think the biggest thing for me when I started going through my child loss was that I thought I was alone. And that was the big push for the book, because I wanted the book to tell exactly how I was feeling, no matter how raw it was. I wanted the book to give you the real deal about child loss. And I thought it was going to just help women that are going through it know that they're not alone and that what they're thinking isn't as crazy as they think it is.
Yeah.
But it's also from everybody's, reviews and everybody that's talked to me, it's also helping the family member that doesn't really know what they're going through and doesn't understand it. It kind of gives them a view of what they're possibly thinking or what they are going through. And that's how I wanted it to be. I wanted it written where it was very raw and very real. And I wanted the other women to know that you can get past. I say get past, but maybe move on is the better word to use. You can move forward in your child loss, and for them to realize that they're not alone in doing it. There's tons of us out here that have lost a child at any age. I've talked to women that have lost children that were 2 weeks pregnant all the way to, their child was 60 years old when they lost them. Your baby's your baby, no matter how old it is.
And for you, when you had to start rebuilding your life after this, I mean, how did you start? And kind of explain that for the audience. What were you doing to not just turn the page, but like you said, to move forward, not forgetting the person, but to continue to live your life?
Yeah. So I always tell everybody, you have to, and this goes with any traumatic event in your life, I think you have to make that decision that this is it. This is the day. I'm not going to feel like this anymore. And once you make that decision, then I believe that you need to find out who you are as a person, because I think anytime you have some kind of traumatic event, obviously for me, it was my child loss, I changed as a person. I'm not the same person that I was at one time before my son and before I even had children. I'm not that same person. And I had to figure out who I was. What was my personality? What did I want to do? What were my beliefs? What were my morals? What were my values? And after I figured that out, so you have 1 and 2, and then the third thing is to, when you're having these bad days, when you're having the sad days, the irritable days, whatever day you're having, you have to figure out what's triggering you. And after you figure out what's triggering you, then you can understand it, and you can either avoid that trigger or you can know that, okay, well, I'm going to get triggered by doing whatever that thing is, and you can be prepared for it more, I guess you could say. And those were like the three things that I did starting out in my journey.
We're talking to June K. Collins here on Refocused Radio, and we're discussing her book that you can go to her website right now, theserenitydreamer.com, and you can purchase this book. It's Momma, You Don't Heal. When you released this book back in June 16th, was that this year?
Yes, it was this year. That was the 12th birthday that I had without my son.
What has been the response of people close to you? And was like this, you mentioned earlier, a tool for those who can't relate to have a better way of understanding what you went through in order for them to kind of know how they can approach a loved one who may go through this or had gone through this?
Yeah, I've had a really good response from the book. I've been very humbled by the response of the book. As for like my family and friends, they didn't know I was writing the book until after it was in the editing phase with my editor. And I told my husband first because he didn't even know. And then I told my family and then announced it, to my friends and stuff like that. But they were shocked, I think, because I had never talked about it. So they were pretty shocked. And then obviously all of them supported me in it. And then a lot of them read it. And I think they're saddened by it, but they feel that I'm strong, which, I'm like, I don't know about that, but they said that. But as for the women said that they really can relate. They have said that they get it from the way that it was written. And even family members that have read it that didn't lose a child, they had takeaways from it, takeaways that they could do differently in their life, different views that I had mentioned in the book. Because not only is it my story and the raw emotion about what you go through in child loss, it's also written in a way where you can pick yourself back up from it. The things that help me and other women that I've talked to and coached, I put that in the book. So it's helped other people that I never thought that it actually would, with their life and moving forward in whatever that traumatic event was.
And let's talk about your coaching, because your coaching is unique. You hear a lot of people kind of talk about life coach in today's world. Is probably on every single podcast that's out there. But your perspective is unique. Tell us a little bit what makes your coaching different from others.
I'm really niched down. When I was going through this and when I started, I really enjoyed helping women who were going through child loss, which that is so niched down. But there's so many of us out here. And my perspective on coaching is, you have your one-on-one, and obviously I have my private group, and I do a lot of things in that private group just with those women. I think there's 1,200 women in there now. And we just do talk about different things, and we talk about different lessons that they can learn and about where they are in their child loss. And everybody in there is at a different place. And if you go into a lot of grievance groups, it's always negative, and it's always, I'll never get over something, or I'll never, I can't. And all this negative stuff. It's more of a positive. They go in there and we talk about, hey, I'm having a bad day. What can I do to help myself? Instead of putting all that negative in your head, that is like the biggest thing to me, is putting the negative into your head before you even try. And that's a lot of my coaching. And a lot of my coaching deals with neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming is basically the way you think about things. And I do a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy stuff in there too, just because those two seem like they dealt so much with child loss. So we deal with a lot of the way we think, and the way we do will, how can I explain it? Will make or break your day. I guess that's the easiest way to put it out there. And knowing yourself and accepting that you had this traumatic event and being committed to not being in the same place you were the day before. And I think that's what makes it unique, and it makes it different. And like I said, it's just so niched down, and it's, even though people lose their children at any age, there's a slew of us in there that lost children at different ages and different ways they've lost their children. We're still one, and it's very niched down, but we have so much in common. It makes it flow really easily when you're coaching somebody.
When it came to finding peace in your life, how did you try to approach doing so, and what seemed or still seems to work for you?
Yeah, I always tell everybody that it really deals with your personality. I am an introvert, and I will always be an introvert. And for me, the normal means for someone that's grieving that they tell you to do would not fit my personality and who I am as a person. I am not a big person on going to therapy or going to group counseling, because that's just not me. I'm naturally an introvert. So basically, you need to figure out what is actually going to work for you. And it might be a little bit different for each thing, but the biggest thing is to figure out what is going to work for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Because everyone's situation is different, and everyone has a unique personality. Yeah,
and if you can figure out that, then you can figure out what's going to work for you. Like, one of the things that works for me, if I am stressing out over something, or if I am just irritated at something, if I set something down and walk away from it, I'm fine. And that works for a lot of people, but that's just one thing that I do. If I'm having a bad day, I try to figure out why I'm having that bad day, and why is my mind this way. Another thing that a lot of people can do is I am big with watching funny YouTube videos. I can be in a really bad mood or just be having a blah day, and I can watch a few of those and just kind of reset my mind. And it's basically about resetting your mind. Now, there's a lot more that goes into it, obviously, with child loss, but it's finding those little things that work for you. Like, some people say, hey, I like going for a run. I'm not going for a run, but other people enjoy going for a run, and they can reset like that. Some people weight lift, some people do other things. They go out, they go to art classes. There's so many things you can do, but like, the biggest thing is finding out what is actually going to work for you. And it's a lot of trial and error until you figure it out.
It's funny you say YouTube videos, because my next question was going to be, what puts a smile on your face today?
Yeah, well, I have a daughter now. I had my daughter back in 2014. And obviously she puts a smile on my face because she's hilarious to me. But she's kind of got like a goofy personality, and she's just a lot of laughs. My husband now he's a jokester too. He puts a smile on my face. I have lots of animals, and they put a smile on my face. And then I love watching like funny YouTube videos. Bushman, that man is so funny. Like, I can watch those on repeat for hours at a time. Like the little scare videos, and I try to find like little things like that. But there's a lot of things that make me smile. But yeah, those are just a few things that make me smile and make me laugh a lot.
When it comes to family and how you look at life ever since this loss, has your sense of your priority and how you spend time with people that you love, has that changed? Has that become more important to you? How have you looked at that after your experience?
So after, I was always I'm very family oriented. I say it's the Italian in my blood, but I was always family oriented. But now, since my loss, I have a better work life balance, I guess you could say, where before I did a lot of work things because it was work instead of, I worked for my family instead of my family working. I don't know how to explain it. I just put work before my family, and not all aspects of it, because I did have a really good family life back then. But now it's my family's first. It's not negotiable at all. And just now, life in general is just different. It's different. Like the things that used to bother me, they just don't bother me anymore. It's like, the way that I always explain it is like when you're in high school and everything is so dramatic and everything is so, oh my gosh, the end of the world. Like now, like that's, little things just don't bother me anymore. I mean, it takes a lot to get me bothered. But, the way that I view life now is that, I take it one day at a time, and one negative thing that I have now is like I am very conscious of what Bella does. I worry, and I'm very, I guess worried is the best word, that something is always going to happen to her. It's always like, for me, it's like anxiety, like, oh, she's going to school and something could happen, or oh, she's going on a field trip. She went on a field trip today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what could happen? That's a part that comes with loss of a child. You worry about your other children, and you're scared you're going to lose them too. So I'm working on that, because I'm sure when she becomes a teenager, she's not going to appreciate that, being so crazy about that. But that's kind of a negative of it. But I think it's, it's tit for tat. I have a better understanding of life and just how short it could be, and how appreciative I am of my children. And I have that, but then I also have, obviously my triggers.
Once again, listen to our Refocused Radio, talking to our guest, June K. Collins, and about her book, Momma, You Don't Heal, for all the mothers struggling to rebuild their life and find purpose after child loss. You can go visit her website, theserenitydreamer.com. Let's talk about the women you're helping. All right. I want people to listen to this episode and feel encouraged as well. You're helping a lot of women.
Yeah, I'm helping a lot of women. I'm helping women that are it's just brand new. It's very raw to them. And then I weeks, days old. And then I'm helping women that are, going through it. They're 10 years in, they're 20 years into their child loss. I think the majority of the women that I do help are 3 to 5 years into their loss, but the majority of them are 3 to 5 years, but they go from all age ranges, and every person is totally different about what exactly they need in their loss journey. So I guess that's kind of different too, but that's all part of the coaching and figuring out exactly what they need and need specifically for their loss. Because some of these women that come to me, they have a lot of what ifs and guilt. The what ifs, what if I would have called them? What if I would have woken up? What if I would have? And obviously we know anything in life, the what ifs will kill you. So I just walk them through wherever they're at in their journey, if they're wanting me to. But I always make sure, and I always tell everybody, just make sure that you're ready, because this is the last day that you're going to feel like this. And I think that's the big thing.
I know earlier you mentioned that you're an introvert. And with that said, outside of your book and your coaching, were there programs or nonprofits, any resources that you found were useful Or are there any today that you know of that you believe could be another tool that can be used in a woman going through this process?
So when I started out my journey, remember, I thought that I was like the only person going through this. So I did not know about any of the resources. Since then, there is probably a support group or some kind of organization that has so much information. I know of John's Missions 22, that is for veterans, parents of veterans that have committed suicide. Obviously, you have MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. There's so many different organizations out there. You just have to look. But when I was going through my child loss, the way that I dealt with it is like I'm the introvert and I'm a very analytical person. So what I did was I read everything I possibly could about grief and about the mind. And that is how I started with my journey. And I kind of, I started very broad, and then I kind of went down to your NLP and your acceptance and commitment therapy. And then after I knew that those were the two things that were helping me the most, then I started just reading everything I could about acceptance and commitment therapy and NLP and how it can help you with grief. And that's how I did it. But for any woman that just wants to go out there, I mean, a lot of people don't like going to counseling and they don't like going to group counseling. But for me, and my opinion is try it once. And if you try it once and you don't like it, you never have to go back again. But a lot of times for women, that's exactly what they need. And, there's, they don't know about my child. There's so many things that go tit for tat. But what I would say for anybody is try group therapy once and try counseling a therapist one time. And if you don't like it, you never have to go back. The same way as if you try something and try to move forward in your loss and it doesn't work for you, then you never have to do it again. I never did go, I will admit, I never did go to group counseling because just the anxiety of being in a group of people telling my story is a lot. But I did go to therapy one time. It just wasn't for me. And I think I needed to do that to realize I had to do it a different way.
If there's a woman out there listening to this and she may be going through what you've been through, and maybe they too, maybe she's an introvert as well, what words of encouragement would be your message to her right now?
I would tell her that as long as she makes the commitment to try to move forward, that the commitment doesn't mean that their child has to be packed away and never spoken about again. I would tell them that the day that your child died was the day that their legacy began, and that it's your choice to keep your child alive, not physically here with us, but verbally by telling his or her story, and by keeping their memory alive, it helps you heal. And I would tell them that you are going to be okay. What you're thinking is okay. And that moving forward is extremely hard, but it can be done. That doesn't mean that you heal, but it does mean that you can find moments of happiness, whether that's seconds, minutes, hours, days. It is possible. And don't listen to anybody that tells you that it's not possible.
I've been talking to June K. Collins here on Refocused Radio. She's the author, master NLP practitioner, and coach. You can go to her website. It is theserenitydreamer.com and get her copy of her book, Momma, You Don't Heal, for all the mothers struggling to rebuild their life and find purpose after child loss. Once again, June, I want to say thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me tell my story.